Howdy everybody, this is Hando. Today I'm going to be showing off some of my weird gaming hardware that I've got. I've collected some interesting things for hacking and just bootstrapping strange things to work for my nefarious purposes, so hopefully this is fun. My first item. This is a Gary Bowser original, an SSOX dongle for my Nintendo Switch, complete with the little thingy that you slide into the Joy-Con slot instead of using a paper clip like some use to trigger the exploit to put the Switch into debug mode. Gary Bowser has infamously been prosecuted and convicted by Nintendo and got that huge punishment. This is not the only Gary Bowser product that I own. Thanks, Gary. Sorry that you got busted. This has worked great for hacking my Switch and all that. It does use software that's based on open source tech that he's profiteered off of, even beyond legality, poor ethical choices like that have made the open source community totally not like him either. So, yes, and Gary's really a prick, but he helped me out. I've got some games in here. I've got flashcards. This one, the Ace Card 2i, was quite a good one. This one is fun. The Gateway, as well as the Gateway 3DS, which is a Gary Bowser original as well. This is a DS flash card that came with the Gateway 3DS, a 3DS flash card. But the exploit that you needed, the old DS flash card, to use the new 3DS flash card was defunct by the time that I received it. So I've never used this flash card. It was a free bonus, basically, that they sent out to a bunch of people for free because they didn't know that an exploit was going to come out to make the 3DS card just work. So that's funny. Got another flash card around here too. This one was bit by a dog or a child. I'm not sure. But this is my original R4 DS, the first one that I owned. Old, trusty companion. Played a lot of Medios on that, I think. A Nintendo Switch Joy-Con. What's strange about this, you ask? Well, this is the first one that I took apart and replaced the Joy-Con, or the analog stick, after experiencing drift. I ended up stripping one of the screws. One of the screws got stuck. When I put it back together, it didn't work, and I'm pretty sure if I take it apart again, I won't be able to fit it back together. So for my first attempt, I broke the Joy-Con worse. But I've done it successfully since. But I keep this as a memory. I mean, maybe I'll fix it again someday if I get a chance or need to. But yeah, it's a reminder that my fix-up jobs don't always work out. Still, it's a fairly cheap repair. Probably easier to send it in Nintendo though. This is a Moga device. It's a Bluetooth controller with a little clip. One of my friends, or my brother, won this at PAX East one year, and it ended up in my hands at some point. Because it sucks. It's really, the buttons are stiff. It's got two circle pads, which if you've had a 3DS, you know how it is. They're not the best. You'd prefer an analog. There's two of them, and they're worse than the 3DS, so yeah, I never liked this thing much. The two triggers on the end. Yeah, not much else to say. My first PowerA product, and I was not satisfied, but you know, wireless Bluetooth, sometimes that's what you need in a pinch. Really needed a D-pad though for the classic games on mobile. That's what I'm trying to play. But old product from like 2012 or so. This is a GameCube player disc, photocopied. I'm not sure why. I got this from my friend Tyler, the one who wants to. What's up, Lou? He let me use this for my speedrunning exploits for Kirby's Dream Land. Lou, if you want this back, you're welcome to have it back if you're seeing this. It is hard to find these because discs get scratched in a way that the Game Boy player hardware, you can see on here, does not. So there's plenty of the hardware, but the discs are in short supply. I think most people, if they're savvy, they would burn a new disc to use with a backup loader tech, but for speedrunning, I wanted to be super legit, so I've got a copy of Kirby's Dream Land around here too that I've poured countless hours into. This is the power cable for the PlayStation Vita. Something that I learned is if it gets bent this way or that too much, a blob of solder falls off and then it doesn't work anymore. So I've fixed one before, not this one, and it broke a day later because the blob of solder fell off again. But it was my first soldering job and it was successful, so I'm proud of myself for that. Anyway, I just bought another cable, and if this one breaks, I'll fix it too. And maybe it'll break after a day as well. But I don't play my Vita that much anymore, so it's okay. GBA to GameCube connector made by Intel. I believe I used this to play the Tingle Tuner in Wind Waker. I might have used this with the Game Boy player at some point, but not in a great way. Because when I was doing Kirby's Dream Land speedruns, I used the GameCube D-pad, and let me tell you, I would have much rather played on a real Game Boy with this, because that D-pad, the GameCube has the worst D-pad of all time. I swear I've got thumb scarring on my left thumb from using it too much for speedruns. Hey, check this out. Twin Game Sharks for the N64. Neither of these work, for reasons I will explain. Also, this one's got an I.O. port, which is crazy. I might have had a port like this on my original computer, but it would have been on the motherboard, and I wouldn't have even known how to find that at the time. But anyway, these both are set to modes for games that I don't own, and so they won't actually boot. Also, this is a button on the front that you would press to get like 999 coins if there was a specific cheat for that. Anyway, you could stack them and reset it if you didn't have the available game. But, of course, the problem is I've set both of these to modes that for games that I don't own. And why did I do it? Because I could, to see what would happen, even though I knew what would happen, which is that I couldn't use them anymore. That's, that's the Hando guarantee. That's the kind of thing that I get up to and got up to often as a kid. And, yeah, I still do things with abandon all the time. Nothing has changed. This is a VR headset that I was using to play Nintendo Labo games on my Switch. So, traditionally they're made out of cardboard, but instead I took this phone headset and I tore some plastic off and put Scotch tape over bits where it would scratch the Switch's screen. And so you can imagine me. There's a rubber band here too, which I think I used to hold the Switch. But yeah, you hold the Joy-Cons like here when you're doing your thing. It didn't really fit because the Joy-Cons are obfuscated by this plastic. So you're better off using the real cardboard if you want to play some Smash VR, unfortunately. Or just don't, because it's not a great experience. N64 memory card. This one works, but my one from when I was a kid did not. My dad got it for me in Rayman 2, which required a save card, a memory card, and he was always confused why I didn't play much Rayman 2. It was because my memory card was busted. I couldn't save, which didn't make much sense because I'm pretty sure we bought that memory card new. Nowadays, I realize that it probably was just like broke from the factory, had bad blocks or something. But yeah, years later, got this from my father-in-law. Works great. Still had his memory saves on it. I just got really unlucky as a kid. So maybe I can finally play some Rayman 2. My Raspberry Pi 3B. I built this for playing retro games, but got it overclocked. Was playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and other delights of that era. Some N64 games, SNES. I brought this into my coding boot camp at the time, and I remember a guy in there lit up when he saw that he could play some Street Fighter 2. So these things, having access to a lot of classic games and a little form factor like this, when you've got a nice computer like I do, it's not always appealing, but when you can transport these things so easily and they work kind of universally with different hardware, controllers and stuff, it can be really nice. It's hard to build these though now because of the silicon shortage makes them prohibitively expensive to make sense to buy versus a regular computer. But still, cool thing. And I got this janky little case with a fan in it so I could overclock. And I even put some heat sinks on there without thermal paste that I probably should have, because you know. Anyway, I think the last thing on our list is my amiibo. I've got many of these on little old gift cards and stuff with NFC stickers because it's just very easy to make amiibos this way, and they're hella expensive. I only got one real amiibo, which is Meta Knight, because he's awesome. But yeah, it's just a guy I'm training up. You know, we'll see if he gets into a big bout someday. Maybe. At any rate, this has been some weird hardware that I've got. I like making videos like this, it turns out. Who would have thought? Sharing my random gaming trivia and memories, and I'm realizing as time goes on that sort of thing, I take it for granted that I've got that knowledge, so I just want to share what I got here in my heart, bare in my chest, my love for video games. So, hope you have a good one. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know in a comment if you enjoyed this or you got any want to see me make something else.